and Central Committee. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of Mason Web TV, powered by HCC, MasonWebTV.com, Hood Canal Communications, its advertisers, or sponsors. Appearances on this broadcast do not constitute an endorsement.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Everybody now. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, thank you for coming today. Welcome, everybody. Welcome our members and our guests and our candidates. We've been doing this for many years, and it's supposed to be fun, relaxed day. So please help yourself to getting some food ordered and come back and visit with us. We're going to go ahead and call in the ROJ. I always say those initials wrong. No, NJROTC. And ask them to please present the...
But before they do...
Okay.
Before they do... we are actually going to hear from our disabled vets. And I would like April Pooler to come up and share with us about our disabled vets page, table, and how you can be a support. Thank you.
Hello. So Alan Emmons is over there by our little tiny table, and he's actually our homeless outreach for our homeless veterans. He's really great. The Disabled American Veterans has been around for 100 years. Our chapter here, Chapter 60 in Shelton, hasn't been here that long, but we have a lot of really great volunteers. So we're there on Thursdays from 9 until noon. So if anyone needs some help, we're there then. However, American Legion and VFW is at Memorial Hall Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 4 days a week we have some help at Memorial Hall for some veterans. For homeless outreach though, Alan's there on Thursday, so that's really great. So we're doing a fundraiser for the Disabled American Veterans. It's the time of the year for Forget-Me-Nots. They're doing a drive for the Forget-Me-Nots. So any amount of money, your change, your dollars, whatever, really, really helps and adds up. But we were able to find from the World War, the First World War, Forget-Me-Nots from the very first time they ever sold them, and we've put them in a frame in a shadow box with some history. So we're going to be, for every $10 donation, you can get a ticket that we will draw from. And we will have 3 to give away. We will not draw until the actual November 10th, which is the Appreciation Day or the National Forget-Me-Not Day. So please, like I said, any amount helps. But if you do $10, then we will give you a ticket and we will draw live on our Facebook page. And by all means, we all know about Facebook. If you can like our page, you can kind of keep up on what we're doing. And it's the DAV Shelton CH for Chapter 60. So again, we appreciate everything. And if you see a veteran in need, please send them to Memorial Hall. Monday through Thursday, somebody will be there. Again, American Legion, VFW, and the DAV. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, April. You're always so good supporting the veterans and their activities. I'd like to call forward our Commissioner, Kevin Schutte, who is going to be leading us in the pledge, and ask the ROTC to please present the colors. You ready? All righty. Please stand.
Present. Colors. Ready. Cut.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Ready. Cut. Left. Pace. Forward. Arch.
Special thanks to the Shelton NJROTC cadets and chief. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Now we have Kathy McDowell, our city council member, who is going to lead us in an invocation.
How's that? Is that too loud? About right?
Fine. Let's raise our hearts and bow our heads. Father in heaven, we are so thankful today for the freedom we have to gather together. We thank you for all your blessings that you bestow upon us. We ask your blessing and your watch care over our government and our candidates that are running, Lord, and the council members, the county commissioners, and state level and federal level. We ask that you bless them and keep them safe. We just ask that you bless this food to our bodies and the hands that prepared it. In your precious name, amen.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much. Okay, please have a seat. We'll be having Elizabeth Crouchmeyer, she's a candidate for the 6th Congressional District, and she will be our MC today. There's been questions that have been submitted to the group, and so she did not make up the questions, but she's going to help us with the program, along with Laura Lynn Rogers, the club's vice chair, who has put this whole event on. So Laura Lynn Rogers and Elizabeth Crutchmeyer, and we'll hear more from Elizabeth about her campaign a little bit later in the day. So please come forward.
Thank you for community for submitting questions to our website. We appreciate that. We're doing a reset up here. That happens. Yeah.
All right. So are we untangled? We're going to put the... All right, well, thank you, Laura Lynn. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks to everybody for being here. So I first want to give a round of applause for the people who put this event together. Thank you so much for doing this on our behalf. So I'm Elizabeth Kreiselmeyer. I will be speaking later on, as was mentioned, running for the 6th Congressional District in 2022. But for right now, the focus is on the local races, the 2021 races here. So I'm going to be helping out here. We're going to start with the Shelton City Council. So we've got position 6 being competed for by Joe Schmidt, who's an incumbent, versus Tyler, also known as Mad Dog Elliott. And position 7, George W. Blush versus the absent Trenton Powers. And we will have a statement first by Laura Lynn reading for Trenton Powers, who couldn't be here today, but she's going to start with his statement, and then we'll move on to the other 3. Okay, Laura Lynn.
Yeah, the other 3 can make their way up here at that time. I will share Trenton's statement. And he was very apologetic and wanted you to know that. My name is Trenton Powers. I want to thank you all for listening to my statement while I'm out of town on family matters. I am a homeowner in Shelton, manage a small business in town, and am a veteran who served in Afghanistan. When I left the service to do private security, I knew I wasn't done serving my community. Shelton has been my home for over 5 years now, and the support I have had is overwhelming. When the opportunity came up to run for city council, I couldn't pass it up. I will show the same dedication and passion in this position as the community has given to me. I want to be involved in the positive changes in the community and be a voice for the veterans and community members who feel unheard. If elected, I will address issues in the professional and timely manner and make sure every Shelton citizen knows their ideas are heard. I will also listen. I will also learn. I hope you consider voting for me this year. For those of you I haven't met, I'm excited to meet all of you in person when I return home. Thank you, Trenton Powers.
All right. All right, thank you, Laura Lynn, on behalf of for Trenton Powers. So if I could ask the other three candidates, come on up here and take a seat on the stools, or maybe pull them back a little bit. So here we have Joe Schmidt, Tyler Elliott, and George W. Bush. So what we're going to do, say hello, yeah, hand for the candidates. So here's how it's going to work. We'll do a 30-second introduction that you'll each have 30 seconds just to introduce a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we'll proceed in rotating order between the candidates for the questions that we have that have been submitted in advance by the group for you to answer in turn. So starting with Joe, if you could give us your introduction.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Joe Schmidt. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm an active duty Air Force veteran. I've been a volunteer firefighter here in Shelton. I've been blessed to be your city council member for the last 3 years. I'm running to continue to bring and deliver accountable government to the city of Shelton, to bolster our economic resiliency and to bring focus on our community life. It's time to establish a sense of place here in Shelton. One of the things I've learned from Deputy Mayor Peterson along the way is there's a concept of designing a community by design, not by default. A city where our people come first, families want to establish their roots, and where business can prosper. I look forward to gaining your support as I continue as a council member here on the City Council. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tyler Elliott, although many around here know me as Mad Dog, which I've been known by since I played football for Shelton High School. I'm a lifelong resident of Mason County, as was my father, his father before him, his father before him, so on, etc. I'm here running as I never thought I would be, to be honest with you. I thought everything was going to go just fine here in Shelton and there wouldn't be any problems. But that was naive. And I'm here in direct opposition to Joe Schmidt, a New York liberal who came out here whose policies for Shelton are not only dangerous, but stupid. Thank you.
How you doing, everybody? My name is George Blush. I am the executive director of 5XL Shelton Pet Food Bank. My family and I run Nita's Coffee Shop downtown. I am a member of the Crossroads Housing Board and the chairman of the Mason County Housing Authority. How many of y'all think we pay enough in taxes? Anyone? Me too. So if anybody watched the iFiber candidate videos, you will see that not all of the candidates feel that way. I think the things that we need to be focusing on here in our community as a city council is working with the organizations here within the city that are focused on dealing with the mental health and addiction crisis that we have here before we lose any more of our children like we just recently did across the street. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I want to remind everyone that we've got some timekeepers in the front who will be holding up the signs when you approach your limit of time, and we'll ask you to stop, and then I'll start edging, and if you see me coming, that means time to pass the mic. All right, so now we're going to go to the first question, which will go to Tyler, and the question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing the city of Shelton, and how would you address it?
The biggest challenge facing the city of Shelton is probably housing. And the difference between my opponent and I is, how do you address it? Well, I would not address it with low-income housing, affordable, any of these buzzwords that just mean we're going to be importing people from other towns who are already pre-approved. They're on a waiting list to get in here, get anywhere that has this housing ready to go, who are at an incredibly high rate of recidivism for crimes, drug problems, etc. You can look around all over the state where these kind of housing projects have come in and devastated the communities around them. So my solution would be to encourage ethical development.
Thank you, Tyler. Joe, you're up.
Thank you. I think the biggest problem facing the city of Shelton right now is a lack of affordable housing. And I believe that the city's role in that is to strategize ways to bring more affordable housing to the city of Shelton. Whether it be considered a buzzword or not, we got to remember that 1 in 2 of the families that live in this community are basically one paycheck away or one catastrophic event away from potentially losing their housing. So while we consider we're going to be importing problems, the things that we're importing right now are people who can cash out and price out the people who currently live here. And you remember, 1 in 5 households in the city of Shelton lives in poverty currently, today. These are statistics that we've garnered through collaborative discussions with nonprofit organizations in the city of Shelton and other organizations that are helping us really learn and understand this problem moving forward.
All right, thank you. And here you go, George.
Hi, everybody. As the director of the Housing Authority and a member of the Crossroads Housing Board, I have been directly working with the homeless population in this problem for quite some time, and it is definitely a problem. The bigger problem that I have currently is the mess. Every time I walk out the back door of my restaurant to an alley, there's human excrement, there's garbage, there's people sleeping. The people who are supposed to be responsible for taking care of these things obviously haven't done that. So now it's time that we start having someone get up there and get these things cleaned up. Have you been into the woods lately? Anything? Have you walked around and seen just the mess that we have going on here? That's what I want to see. This is an environmental disaster on the brink of happening here. We have just too much garbage, too much of a mess, and we need to address it. We need to hold the mess makers accountable, and we need to start cleaning things up. And then people will want to come live here, and we can start focusing on housing. But first, let's clean the mess up, and then we can get right to the housing thing. And listen, there's plenty of housing that's available. People just need to take the steps to get it done. And I know about it because I've been working with it all the time. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. So this next question is, what is your stance on or ideas for expanding the city's tax revenues by attracting businesses, both large and small, to Shelton? How would you do that? First, this goes to Joe.
I think the first step in attracting business is to make an environment where business is friendly here in the city of Shelton. I think we need to work on processes where any business that's going to come here, it's clear and straightforward. Our processes are streamlined and efficient, so they understand what to expect when they're doing business here in the city. And I think as long as we can maintain a strong relationship with the business community, we can keep gaining those insights as to what future business may need in the city of Shelton, what type of support they may need, and then work towards that. And I think over the last several years, the council has definitely done things, and I have definitely supported things such as strategic investments in technology to streamline our permitting process, online bill paying, and things like that did not exist at the city prior to the council being seated. And to share those successes with my counterparts. One of the other things that is often difficult is keeping business here in the city limits and making sure that we have the support network for the long haul.
All right, thank you. And next we're going to go over to George.
Okay. Can you repeat the question for me?
The question was your stance on and ideas for attracting small and large businesses to Shelton. Attracting business.
Okay, attracting businesses to Shelton. I think one of the things that I've heard that is the most promising is that they're going to remove the moratorium on height here for the city. If we start building up a little bit, we don't have a lot of space. So unfortunately, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to build up a little bit, which, then we have better views and all that sort of different stuff. And I think it's just a good move. I think, then we don't pile businesses on top of houses. We keep it down in the corridors where they're supposed to be. And then we can just keep growing the businesses there as we need them. And listen, we can all use a few more little shops to go down and check out out. You know, we have a cute little downtown. If we can make it a little nicer, maybe get some, you know, clean up the alleyways, get some farmers markets going there type of thing year round. Just make it more downtown friendly so everybody wants to kind of come and hang out.
Well, I'm one of the folks that stepped up and picked up a little bit of the slack in downtown Shelton when the many of you know that we lost the Treasury's Thrift Store a while back, and my family and I and friends bound together got in there, and we managed to keep the place open and have been providing low-cost goods to the people of Shelton for the last year and a couple of months now, and so far it's good. And as a business owner downtown, I really like it down there, but to attract more of us, we are going to need to clean up our streets. We're going to have better law enforcement, or not better law enforcement, but we need to help these guys out. They need to be able to do their jobs. And building up might be right in some places. It's not a bad idea, George. Look forward to working with you on the council.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. All right. The next question is, what ideas do you have for, we touched on it a little bit, but go a little deeper if you'd like, for increasing the availability of affordable workforce housing in this area, and how can it be done without adversely affecting the existing residents? So we're going to start with George this time.
I think we have a lot of projects that are getting ready to come forward here over the next year or two, that some affordable housing is going to get built. I know there's some things going on up in Belfair where there's supposed to be some apartments, building 100 of them up there. And then I know there's something that they're working on over, not in the, where the project we were talking about with the 400 houses, but there's a private developer who's talking about putting in some housing up on the other side on private area there. So there is housing that's coming. And I know that people need to also take advantage of the things that we have here. There's a lot of different programs out here that people don't know about. So I'd like to see, you know, that information get brought out a little bit more. You can come see me. I can hook you up with a card for Crossroads or anything like that. If you have someone that needs housing, it's here. We just need to make it known a little better, I think. And, you know, some of the people here are working to build more housing. They're working with, you know, city government officials and that sort of thing with Crossroads and making things happen. And we'll just keep it going in that direction. I think we're going to be all right.
It's my turn. Can I get the question one more time?
What are your ideas for increasing the availability of workforce housing, affordable workforce housing? How can it be done without adversely affecting existing residents?
To do it without adversely affecting adverse residents, we have to keep any kind of state-sponsored, statewide programs out. No of the traditional affordable housing. What we need to do is encourage ethical developers to come in on private land and get some affordable buildings in place. There's a lot of room to develop. Okay, not a lot of room, but there's enough. And we're gonna get through this problem. We're gonna get more houses out here, and the city's gonna grow. The kind of problem just works itself out. Supply and demand.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Joe, you're up. Do you need the question again?
Yep, I got it. Thank you very much. I think the things that we can be doing to incentivize or bring affordable housing to Shelton is exactly what we've been trying to do over the last year. The city has several sections of surplus property that have been deemed neighborhood residential. Putting that out for an opportunity for somebody to come and purchase that property and bring affordable housing, that's exactly what we tried to do several months ago. The public input on that was the temperature in the room was quite cold, so we went back to the drawing board on that. We're holding on to several chunks of land that could be easily developed into housing for folks that need it in our community. We're putting that out on the street for proposals. I think, you know, the other thing that we can do as a city is to not be a roadblock in any of those processes as well. And to reduce the impacts to the people in the community requires community input and requires people to come to the table and be part of that. That's exactly what we've been trying to do for the last year and a half as a council, and we're so close to seeing a lot of this come to fruition and good things to come.
All right, thank you, Joe. And actually, this next question sort of ties into, it'll be a nice segue into this question. The City of Shelton, primarily its utility enterprises, owns several large land parcels, one of which was recently involved in a workforce housing proposal. So what is your view of these assets, these land parcels? How should they be used and who should benefit? And we're going to start with Tyler.
Great question, thank you. Many of these parcels are beautiful pieces of pristine forest land that are homes to birds, animals, all sorts of local flora and fauna that help keep our environment going around here. Not all of them are sacred. The watershed that was proposed to be done away with, that one is. So we can't be messing with all of them, but there are definitely some places that we can do some ethical carving. We can take out portions of them, get some houses here and there where we need them. But if we go big with the chainsaw, and I have the biggest chainsaw that steel ever produced, I love it. It's got 138 cc's of power. I can bring down any old growth tree I want, but that's not what we're doing. We need to be real careful about our future and managing our resources.
All right, thank you. Going to you, George. Do you need the question?
Yeah.
All right. So the City of Shelton, particularly its utility enterprises, owns several large land parcels, one of which was recently involved in a workforce housing proposal. So the question is, what's your view of these assets? How should they be used and who should benefit?
First and foremost, the citizens here should always benefit first before anybody else, before any outside entity, before anything else. I know there was a local family that was possibly looking into setting up different housing developments, but in broken it up, as opposed to setting it all in one area, creating the type of debacle that they were talking about with the other one. I don't know all the details exactly, but I saw some things, and it didn't sound good. But the idea of putting 75 there and then maybe, making a nice park type thing in the area there, because once you cut down all the trees, you're never going to plant them again. I mean, unfortunately, we're not Weyerhaeuser. That's not how it works. We don't replant anything. Once it's gone, it's gone. So do we really want to sacrifice that so soon? Or do we want to, break that up, maybe take a piece of that and make something there and then, make it back to where there's more trails, like the trails that we have right there, the Huff and Puff. Everybody loves that trail. Why don't we see something more like that? I'm cool with putting a little bit of housing there, but let's also build it responsibly. You need garages. You need different places for people to put their stuff. If you just put up some manufactured homes on a place, what you're going to have, you have nowhere to put your lawnmower. Everybody needs a place to put the lawnmower. And you see the houses around town in the neighborhood where they don't have all that. So we want to be mindful of that stuff too. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And now Joe, another word? Do you want the question again?
No, thanks. When it comes to our enterprise funds and the property owned by those enterprise funds, the council over 2 years ago sat down with city staff and the city manager, and we said, we have a significant number of surplus land now, land that we don't necessarily need because Shelton hasn't been on a spring-fed water system for the last 50 years. All of our water comes from deep well aquifers. So what do we want to do with it? One of the biggest needs that we have in the community, of course, is affordable housing. So therefore, we start putting together the opportunities to incentivize development to come and build affordable housing in the city of Shelton. Outside of that, the details are important, right? Like I said, it hasn't been a spring-fed water system for 40 or 50 years. So making sure that we make these strategic investments, making sure that we look at this from a community benefit and more long-term, not just election cycle by election cycle, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Shelton is poised for significant growth, no doubt about it. And again, getting back to my opening statement of a community by design and not by default, don't let the growth necessarily dictate what the city looks like. Provide that vision and let the development community craft it.
All right, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the prepared questions. I'm going to ask each candidate to do a 1-minute closing. So I'm going to start with George.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to come out here and speak to everyone. I am always available for anyone to speak to. I'm right down at Nita's Coffee Shop, 325 West Railroad Avenue. Anytime you have any questions, I'm going to be hopefully one of the most available elected officials that we've had in a long time, because you can come right down and see me and yell at me over a cup of coffee. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for everything, and vote for George Blush.
All right, Joe, your closing remarks.
Thank you. I firmly believe Shelton is poised to be one of the greatest cities in the state of Washington, but we surely face some challenges ahead. Complex problems don't just disappear. They don't just necessarily work themselves out. They take a team of people. They take a diverse group of people to work together to solve those problems together. The other thing it takes is a big heart and a lot of compassion, and that's definitely something that we have here in the city of Shelton. I look around at who's here today. There's a lot of heart and there's a lot of compassion. I'm excited to continue to work collaboratively with my fellow council members, to continue to roll up my sleeves and have those hard conversations when needed, but most importantly, to be the best advocate for Shelton and its future. And I'd like to thank the Mason County Republican Women for not only putting this on today, but for being involved in our process and for helping, get the word out on these important issues. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. And lastly, Tyler, your closing remarks.
I believe that Shelton was, and always will be one of the greatest cities in Washington State. Right off the bat. I mean, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents came here. It's a great town with great people that go a great ways back. And I wouldn't be here if we hadn't seen that from the very beginning. It has grown tremendously. We've had our ups and our downs, but it's a wonderful town. And if elected, I'm going to act as a steward for this town. I'm going to make sure that we don't deal with the problems of rampant growth. I want to limit growth, keep it to a reasonable pace as we go along time, so that we don't get too big for our britches, so that we don't suddenly come up with all sorts of infrastructure problems nobody saw coming. Things are growing, things are changing, and that's good. And we're going to make sure it stays good. I hope you vote for me come November. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Tyler, and thank you to all three of the Shelton City Council candidates. Give them a hand and go and talk with them afterwards. And now I'm going to ask the Fire District for District 11 Commissioner Position 1 candidates to come up now. Kevin Ward and Bradley McCutcheon running for an open seat. Oh, here you go.
Okay. And while they're making their way up, I would like Sharon Shimmer. Okay, she's going to announce her name for you. She is an uncontested position for our city council. Thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve our city. And Eric Inesco, also an uncontested race for our city council. Thank you for stepping up. Okay. Hi.
All right, so if you guys could take a seat up there and we'll get started. So we're going to do our 30-second introductions of yourself and your background. So starting with Kevin.
Hello, I'm Kevin Ward. I've lived in Mason County my whole life. Lived in Island Lake Fire District for over 40 years. In the same house. Been involved with the fire service since I was a 16-year-old kid. I volunteered for 4 years and was a resident for 2. I know how the fire service works. We're running for this seat that my dad has vacated after 20 years of service, so either one of us will do very well at it. But that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Bradley, your turn. Your 30-second intro.
All right. First, I'd like to thank the Mason County Women's Republican Club for inviting me and hosting this. My name is Bradley McCutcheon. I own a company here in town, employ 10 people. I was born and raised in Alma. I married my wife Heidi in 2017. We moved to Shelton in 2018. We built a house in 2015. She grew up in the neighborhood. We lived next to her folks, Al and Chris. I was a volunteer firefighter in Alma for a short stint, and my wife's family has been involved in the Mason Fire 11 for many, 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 many years. Her grandpa Chuck was one of the first fire chiefs and served for decades. So, Mason County Fire has, I think, 2 good choices. So I think there's going to be a little bit of differences, but not huge ones. So I guess we'll find that out through some questions.
All right. All right, thank you. So the first question is, what do you see as the most important role of a fire commissioner, and what best skill do you bring to the table that makes you the best candidate for this position? So Bradley, we're going to start with you.
Role of fire commissioners. I don't have the background, obviously, that he does growing up with this, but it's a management role. I have the management role now. I employ 11 people at this time. It's to support and bring some vision to the fire. Fire has changed with all the stuff that's coming on. As the houses get safer, there's going to be less fires. Now we got wildfires to deal with. It's envisioning some of that in the future, supporting the firefighters, and working with them and getting them what they need.
All right. And to you, Kevin?
Role as a fire commissioner, number one role is to support the district, and we're really there to help make confident fiscal decisions with equipment, with personnel. And one of the big roles is keeping the volunteers and supporting the volunteers. There's a big problem right now with getting volunteers and retaining them for any length of time. The volunteer fire service has become a training ground for people that want to get into fire service, which is a good thing, and supporting their training is a big thing. And I promote training. I come from an industry as an auto mechanic for the county and working in fleet maintenance, and training is a big deal. So to keep up with technology, we really just need to support the staff that we have. So that's our big role.
Right. Thank you, Kevin. All right, so our next question is, what is your take on the number of emergency vehicles that respond to each incident, minor and major? Do you consider this an appropriate deployment of resources? Why or why not? So we're going to start with Kevin.
Well, the number of emergency vehicles, it depends on who's available to show up, number one. So there's a lot of times where there'll be one person on staff and you may need multiple vehicles from multiple areas to come assist. If you don't know, all the districts around here have mutual aid agreements with other districts to cover because of the lack of volunteers. So you may see, multiple vehicles at a scene, and there may be one person in each vehicle, but that's necessary, to deal with the situation that they have at hand. So multiple vehicles is not a problem for me.
All right, thank you. And your take on that same question?
Yeah, the multiple response vehicles, sometimes you see a crash and you see a ladder truck show up and you're like, why is a ladder truck at a crash? Maybe that's because something may happen and they don't want to go back to get the ladder truck. So there is multiple reasons why they take multiple vehicles. And more than that, I would have to dive into and try to figure out if there's too many trucks showing up for response calls for, just to get response calls. So other than that, I would have to look into it.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So this next question, we did have a bit of a shortage of questions on this position. So here's an interesting question submitted. I will tell you why. You'll see why. A question submitted by Randy Lewis specifically, who lives in Island Lake neighborhood, as do the Petersons. The question is: suppose the Lewis house and the Peterson house are on fire at the same time. Whose house do you send the truck to first? Don't answer that, or you can if you want to. So you can either answer that question at your peril, or you can just take a freebie. And next question is there a question we haven't asked you that you would like to address if you don't want to address that incendiary question? I will start with Kevin.
I'll answer that question. Both houses are equal as far as the fire service is concerned, and if there is a multiple call like that, they will bring an engine in from elsewhere. For probably the city of Shelton is the closest, so they will roll an engine from the city and they will roll an engine from Island Lake to address both of those problems. So that's what would happen, and fire commissioners don't have a choice on what engines get called where. That's done through dispatch downtown. So.
Thank you. And your turn.
Man.
For that or another question.
I think that was answered correctly there. So, if I got a chance, I would like to talk about the training and the recruits coming into the station and stuff, because that is a good point that we are losing recruits. We don't have the volume that we need there. So, I just want to bring that up and that's something that needs to be drawn attention to and worked on.
All right, thank you very much. So we're going to move into each of your closing remarks. You'll get a minute apiece. So we'll start with Bradley.
Wow. Closing remarks. Well, I just, Fire District is going to have two good choices, like I said, and I think there's going to be minor differences between the two of us. I think we have a lot of the same values. Kevin's a good person. His family's good people. My family comes from the Fire District also. Me and Heidi are good people. There's some values that can be drawn out through questions, I guess, later, but I think it's just, some more fiscal choices, I would be a little bit more fiscally maybe responsible. I don't know about that, but just, I haven't looked at all the books and seen what's going on and everything, but being a business owner, I had to run things on a tight line string, and it's just, I guess, where we put our money. So. They can't hear me? Oh, okay. Is that better? All right. A little nervous. So anyways, to the people in the back, I'm just saying we have a lot of the same values. We're not going to be hugely different. I think it'll just be a difference of opinion a lot when I see a bit more of what's going on there. I don't have the background that he does, obviously. My family does have quite a few years in the fire district, being the fire chief for the first fire chief there for 20 plus 30 years. Anyways, now I'm just rambling. So anyways, thank you guys.
Thank you, Bradley. All right, Kevin, your closing remarks for 1 minute.
Closing remarks, I just have to say that, I have a lot of fleet experience working for Mason County Public Works as a mechanic and shop foreman there. So part of the deal with a fire department is it's all about, it's half people and half equipment. They have to have the right equipment to do the job and keep the equipment maintained. I know we have a brand new fire engine on order, and I'm excited to see that because that's the third fire engine that my dad got to order at Mason County or be a part of anyway. So it's always exciting. Our fire district is very exceptional with equipment. We have some of the nicest stuff in the county, and I'd like to keep it that way. I'm very proud of our fire district. So. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, a big thank you to both of these candidates, Kevin Ward and Bradley McCutcheon. Thanks for showing up today and answering questions. So now I'd like to ask Laurelyn to come back up, and she's going to do some more introductions of non-contested seats, and then we'll take it from there. Laurelyn? We need number 8. I'm sorry? Number 8, food? I don't know what she means.
Oh. He's trying to find the person who ordered number 8 food.
Number 8 food.
Go get your meal before it gets cold. I actually don't have any people that ran for other fire districts here today. Just want to take this moment to say I appreciate every single name that's written down there. Somebody's taken a time for their life to serve our community, and thank you very much. And also, we like putting on these kind of events, and it does cost us. If you would join our raffle over here at some time before you leave, it would really help to support the future events like this to happen in our community. Thank you. And
do you have any court?
Yeah, keep an eye out for him running around with food in his hands. He's trying to get it to somebody. Okay. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker will be Darren. Right? Am I right? Oh, never mind. I'm doing her job.
Oh, no, that's okay. Were you going to do port candidate, that uncontested port? Is there a port candidate? Okay. All right, then we'll move on to hospital district candidates. So if we could get Darren Moody is here. And then Thor Agathson is not here, but is there a statement, Laura Lynn? Do you want to do that first? If you have a seat. Okay, thank you. We're going to hear a statement from Thor Agathson.
Okay. Okay. As a retired internal medicine physician, I hear from people in the community about their interaction with healthcare system, some good and some bad. I also worked at Mason General Hospital and know that we have an excellent facility and staff. I was hoping to help to improve coordination of services to help the health of the community. There are services that are lacking. I've heard in psychiatric services, and it sounds like a better coordination of some cardiac health care would be important. There's also numerous state mandates from politicians trying to practice medicine without a license that we need to navigate. I look forward to helping if you vote for me. And this is sent from Thor Augustusson. I think I pronounced that right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Laurelyn. All right, so now we're moving on. Darren, if you'd give us your 30-second introduction of yourself.
Thank you. My name is Darren Moody. I've been in Shelton for the last 6 years. My wife and I arrived 6 years ago, and for 6 years I served as your police chief here. I retired recently and decided to continue to live in Shelton because we just fell in love with the community. We've become part of the family of this community. And when I was contacted by Eric, the CEO of the hospital, and Scott Hilburn to be appointed to Scott's position in an interim basis until the election, I agreed. I told Eric and Scott this is just another extension of public safety. I spent 34 years in law enforcement and public safety dealing with all aspects of public safety and emergencies. This is just another aspect of public safety. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now if you could address this question, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the hospital district, and how would you plan to address it?
It's interesting because we had this conversation yesterday, Eric and I. The biggest issue facing the hospital right now is nationwide shortage of nurses, and it's everywhere. There are places offering incredible incentives to get RNs to come to the area and work there. We talked about recruiting and what that's going to take, because again, we are an area that we can't pay you what you pay in Seattle, but we shouldn't be paying what we pay in Seattle because we have a better community. We have a place where people want to come, and we talked about recruiting for that. So the biggest issue we're facing right now is staffing, especially for the RNs. The second biggest issue we're facing right now is space. And Eric and I have talked extensively about that. It was great that we were able to create the Mason Clinic. We had all those additions put in, but at what point do you outlive your space? Shelton is growing. We're going to need other clinics and other things going on there. So at some point that footprint needs to be adjusted, or we need to look elsewhere because we're not going to get any smaller. So I think those are the two biggest issues we're facing right now that need immediate attention.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question is, what is your view on the current Mason Health employee policies regarding required testing or vaccinations for COVID?
All right, throw me to the fire right now. Again, we've had pretty extensive conversations about this. And I mean, I got vaccinated. My parents got vaccinated. So I have, again, opinions both ways. I understand the process and what people want to do and don't want to do, but there's also a public safety part of this we need to understand. And we had this discussion at the police department before I left about people that, do you want to get vaccinated, do you not want to get vaccinated? That's your right. I understand that. But also understand that part of the job and the oath you took and what you swore to do is public safety. So it's a double-edged sword on there of you've got every right not to be vaccinated if that's what you wish to do. However, you also swore an oath to uphold public safety. And especially if you're in an ER or you're frontline responders. And so it's one of those things of, it's a fine line to walk because, we can go take another job if that's what we choose to do. But if we have swore to uphold public safety, I don't write the laws, but I have to uphold them.
All right, thank you. All right, so next question. What suggestions do you have for improving emergency services that some people have felt were inadequate or insufficient? For example, someone who comes into the ER and is sent home only to wind up back there very shortly afterwards. Is there anything you can suggest to improve on this?
I can tell you I saw that firsthand a few years ago. You may remember an ambulance that was stolen from the ER that we chased all the way down here to the park. So yes, it's a problem. We dealt with it for public safety and law enforcement quite extensively in mental health areas. And they're already expanding Mason Health and mental health facilities there. Excuse me. And not only expanding the staff, but the training and the staff need. There's also other options you can look at. The Sheriff's Office just put in play mental health professionals to work with the Sheriff's Department in response. And so we need to look at things like that, because part of the issues that we're facing as public safety and as a city is these people have mental health issues associated with health issues or addiction issues or other issues. And so we need to address all of it, not just take them up there and dump them off at the ER and say, okay, fix them. We need to fix them totally. And I think that's what we need to look at, the whole picture on this. And how do we get responders to the hospital, professional, deal with them?
All right, thank you. All right, next question. So over the years, Mason Health has consolidated many private practices into a governmental non-taxable entity, which has resulted in lower revenues. So does Mason Health bear any responsibility to provide any kind of compensation to make up those shortfalls in local property tax or B&O tax receipts?
Give me that one more time.
Sure. So over the years, Mason Health has consolidated many private practices into a governmental non-taxable entity. So they're not getting the revenues in by taxes. So with those lower revenues, the question that the person had asked was, do you have any plan or do you have any desire to see those shortfalls created in the tax revenue made up by Mason Health in any way?
I'll be completely honest with you. I hadn't even thought about that question. But as an appointed member, I'm here representing you. And I don't get to serve my opinion, I get to serve your opinions and your votes. And so I'm here to do what is best for the community, what is best for Mason Health, and try and make a balance out of that. And if this is something that the community wants addressed, then by all means, it needs to be addressed. And I'm not opposed to bringing anything forward and getting shut down at one level or another, but I'm happy to bring it forward and discuss it. I can tell you that part of the job up there is me holding accountable and fiscally accountable as well Mason Health. And I can tell you they're in a good position. We looked at it last year, and as everybody knows, last year was a struggle for the world. But Mason Health actually did very well in being able to navigate that minefield financially and fiscally responsible.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, so now, what is your stance on hospital-provided abortions as well as alternative options? What, if anything, would you do or could you do to encourage those alternative options?
You guys just don't pull any punches, do you? So, yes, I know this has become a hot topic, not just in our community, but statewide. And I've been briefed on everything that's up to this point. Two things I can address with that. One are, just as I did 34 years in law enforcement, I took an oath to uphold the law. And then in that, I took that very, very seriously. And I told people, I don't write the law as the police chief, but I took an oath to uphold it. The similar would go in any other position I would hold. There's a loyalty and a dedication to upholding the oath you take for that. As far as that goes, specifically, I asked specifically that question to the CEO. If I walk in tomorrow and I want to terminate, how is it done? What happens? And they explain that they give alternative A, alternative B, alternative C. They bring in counselors to discuss it with you. And again, I represent the community, not my opinion. So I think that's where we lose it sometimes in politics is it's not my opinion, it's the community's opinion. And we have a right to vote, and then I have a right to follow it, or I have a duty to follow it.
All right, good job. Sorry for all the softball questions. All right, as a locally elected board, please discuss your role in protecting Mason Health, its customers, and its taxpayers from intrusion by the state and federal government. How do you draw those lines? It just keeps getting better, doesn't it? Easier and easier.
I should have run for city council. Jesus, those were easier questions. Again, I can only go back to what I've been repeating up here. I work for, if I'm elected, I work for you. I work for the community, and the community has representation at the state level and federal level. I did it as a police chief, and I will do it again in whatever position I hold in the community. And that is, I'm not afraid to go over to Olympia and discuss politics. I'm not a professional politician, but I can tell you that if this is what the community needs, this is what the community's request is, then by all means, that's my job to go over there, not express my personal opinion, but express the needs of the community and make sure that everybody's held accountable, including Mason Health and the community, and Mason Health is doing what the community needs to serve.
All right, and finally, your 1-minute closing remarks. Now it gets easier.
Now it gets easier, right? Yeah. Again, I saw this as just another aspect of public safety. And like I said, my wife and I fell in love with the community, and we decided when we retired, we were staying. So whether you like it or not, you're stuck with me. Whether you're stuck with me on the hospital board or not, I'm going to be a member of this community. We love it here. And frankly, I've learned I've only been doing this now 3-4 months as an appointed position, and I've learned an incredible amount. But I want to tell you, I appreciate the community coming out today. Thank you for inviting me to this. And if you choose to put me in that position, I'm here to represent you. Thank you very much.
I think Darren Moody deserves a big round of applause. Thank you for taking the heat, holding our feet to the fire. So next, I'd like to see, Laurelyn, do you have any more non-contested candidates to introduce? Oh, do you have any non-contested?
I actually do. Let me look at my list here. We have Christy Buck for the Port Commissioner. Christy, wait. Yay. Thank you. And then there was no one else on the hospital district other than Thor, so we're good there. Am I missing anyone that is running for either the fire district, port, or hospital? I don't want to miss anyone. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Laurelyn. All right, on to the school board contested positions. We have 2 running from the North Mason School District 403. If I could ask Arla Shepherd-Bull to come on up, as well as Michael Curtin, her challenger. And then for position 5, and then we also have 2 candidates, Didymus Cordova and Travis Harder for position 4 for the Hood Canal School District number 404. And I believe that only Travis is here today, is that correct? Travis is not here? Oh, just the 2. Okay, so we're only looking at the North Mason School District candidates today. So come on up and we'll have you introduce yourselves with your 30-second introductions. All right, so we will go ahead and start with you, Michael, if you're ready, just introduce yourself. Thank you.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Michael Curtin. I'm running for North Mason School District. I am a retired Navy veteran that spent a lot of time working with the Marines. When I retired, I got a degree in secondary education and social studies. I have a total of 7 kids. The last 4 I got from foster care after my older kids graduated. My older 3 went through North Mason, and now my younger 4 are in North Mason School District. I'm concerned about what's going on in our schools, and I got to stop. So there you go.
To be continued, right? Hi, I'm Arla Shepherd-Bull, and I currently am seated in the District 5 position for the North Mason School Board. I live in Allen. I have 2 sweet boys. My husband is a special needs instructor at North Mason High School and the alternative high school, James Taylor. I have been in the community for more than a decade as a writer, I worked for the Shelton Mason County Journal and Belfair Herald and Mason County Life and the Kitsap Sun. I now currently, for the past 2 years now, have been at Mason Health. So thankful to be here. Thank you to the Mason County Republican Women's Club and to all of you and to my opponent. So thanks.
Thank you, Arla and Michael. All right, so our first question is specific to North Mason County School District. It is that the last 2 levies in 2020 for North Mason School District were not passed. And what do you think is the cause of the lack of community support for these, and what might be done about it? Arla?
Sure thing. Hi. I believe that the cause of the first levy failure had to do with my predecessor putting forth a recommendation that really wasn't to the advantage of the taxpayers, and people responded to that, and then it created this community, this distrust in the community, and lack of transparency between the district and the community members. That carried over into the next election. I think it was great that the district took a step back and really reevaluated what they were doing for the next year plus, and did not put forth any more bad proposals for the levy measure.
Thank you. And do you want the question repeated, or you got it? Okay, here you go.
Thank you. Okay, part of the problem with the levy is, one, the first levy was not a real good levy, but on top of that, there's a disconnect between the voter and the school board. There's a lack of trust in the school board. There's a lack, when I was talking to the constituents, they said that they feel like there's a lot of stuff being introduced to the school that they don't approve of, and that they don't have a relationship with the school like they should. And so they're pulling their kids out of school, and they're not going to vote for a levy if they're paying for their kids to go to a private school. So what we need to do is reconnect with these parents and make the community part of the school system, and connect the students, the parents, and the teachers, and work together as a community, and not just work out so the parents feel like they're a part of what's going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, and this next question is, as we come out of the lockdown, returning to full-time in-person learning, catching up on lost time is important to both parents and children. How do you plan to ensure that academic learning is placed at the top of the priorities list and that it be achieved? And we'll start with Michael this time.
Can you read that one more time, please?
Sure. As we come out of this lockdown, returning to in-person full-time learning is going on, and catching up on lost time is important to parents and children. So how do you plan to ensure that the learning is caught up on, that happens, that it's at the top of the priority list, and how do you ensure that it happens, that it is achieved?
Okay, my understanding is when I had an interview with the superintendent, they are actually taking some of the funds that they've got, and they're putting it towards meeting special needs of the students that are falling behind, and they're working towards putting special programs together to help catch people up. So the school district currently has a plan prepared to deal with that situation, and that's the best way to handle it, is to give the kids that need the help the extra help that they need. And part of that, though, is working with the parents, and that connection needs to be reestablished. Thank you.
You want the question again? Okay, as we come out of the lockdown, returning to full in-person learning, catching up on lost time is important to parents and children. How do you plan to ensure that academic learning is placed at the top of the priorities list and that it be achieved?
Thank you. I think the number one important thing is the fact that the kids are in school. It's going to take some time to ramp up, and some of these kids, especially the younger kids, have never been in a classroom environment before, or maybe their parents held them back, and that's going to just take some time and some adjustment. Michael alluded to some of the programs and steps that the district will take to help ease that transition, but really, I think the district did a fantastic job in getting students in at least part of the week. In March, we were one of the first districts to do so because we prioritized the fact that kids need to be in school, not just for academic learning, but for social support, mental health support, emotional well-being. There's just so many things that I think schools do for our students beyond academic learning, and the academic learning, that's gonna take some time. We are gonna have kids that are behind, and I know parents who have kids who are ahead, and it's this struggle to kind of get that right.
Thank you, Arla. All right. Next question. What is your stance on critical race theory or related ideologies being taught in our schools? And the second part to the question is, and what will you do to ensure that parents are informed and involved in any decisions about students' curricula? So this one starts with Arla.
Thank you. This is a big question. I think we can all agree on the fact that all of our students deserve to have a safe space to learn. They need to be in school too, and they should all have the same, they should all be starting from the same place. And I think that the district is prioritizing that. The state has a mandate right now that all districts need to adopt a equity policy within their policies, and a lot of districts throughout the state are kind of struggling with that because it's a very politicized issue. And I've read some really bad policies from districts surrounding North Mason where they really got into the nitty-gritty of it, and kind of alienated folks on both sides. I think that the key is to, we have special meetings set up in place to talk about our district's equity policy, and the community is welcome to be invited to that. I think that, okay, there's my time.
Finish a sentence if you need to. All right, thank you. And Michael, you want the question again? You got it? Okay, here you go.
Okay, I believe the critical race theory is divisive. I believe the way they're going about it is not going to bring people together, but divide them. Every child and every employee in the North Mason School District should be treated with respect and dignity, no matter what their race or sexual orientation, regardless of what they are. Everyone should be treated equally. Martin Luther King said that people should be judged by the character of their heart, not the color of their skin. And when you start doing critical race theory, it's going to cause a divide, not bring people together. And it's going to do the opposite of what they're trying to do. And we need to teach kids how to love and care for each other and treat each other with respect, not look at somebody and say they're different than we are.
All right, thank you, Michael. And Michael, you'll begin on this next question as well. This question is, labor unions are private organizations formed for the benefit of their members. Please discuss your view of the influence of teachers' unions on our schools, particularly throughout COVID, and whether or not it has been beneficial.
Teacher unions have a place for supporting teachers and helping them with things, but like any union, they can get carried away. Teachers' jobs are to teach students, and not so much in North Mason, but in other places I've seen where the school unions are keeping the kid, even though the teachers are getting their vaccinations and all this, they still don't want to go back to work. That's ridiculous. And that is a negative impact on the students and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is teaching the students. So unions, teachers' unions have a tendency, like anything else, to go too far, and they need to be reined in, and they need to stick to their oath of doing what's best for the students and then support the teachers where they need supported. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Arla, want the question again?
Okay, thank you. I agree with Michael that, teachers' unions, I know this past this past school year, there was a lot of negotiation that needed to take place to get the union on board to even come back part-time. I think if we all start from a place of, we care about the kids, we want to support them, then we can come together and have these kind of open discussions. I think that sometimes unions can get really stuck in a particular stance one way or another and really impede that process some of the time. And I think what is important is having good union leadership and open communication between that leadership and administrators so that there's not any defensiveness, that people can kind of take a deep breath and remember that we're here to support the kids first and foremost.
Thank you, Arla. And you'll be first this next one, which is, what is your stance on requiring students to wear masks and or receive mandatory vaccines for in-person learning?
Hi, I believe that vaccination is a family's personal choice and that it should not be mandated. I do not think that it will come to that. As far as masks, school districts are at the, we need to follow state regulations, and unfortunately, depending on where you stand on that issue, that may require kids being masked when they return, depending on the grade level. I would hope that we rely on data and the research that has shown that children don't transmit the virus at the same levels as adults do, and take that into consideration. I know it's something that a lot of parents and families feel very strongly about in terms of masking, and that might impact whether they decide to bring their student back to school. And unfortunately, the district, we do have to follow the state and the governor's regulations in terms of what we can do, what we can allow.
Thank you. And Michael, do you want the question again? Okay, here you go.
Okay. Vaccines, vaccinating kids and forcing it is ridiculous. One, according to statistics, is a 99.95% survival rate of kids that get COVID, and a small percentage of them even get it. So it's a non-starter. We don't force kids to get the flu vaccine, and there's a higher death rate from the flu with kids. The teachers have a choice to either get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. Second, the vaccination is still new. There are side effects. There's causes inflammation around the heart, from what I understand, and there's other side effects that we don't even know about yet. It's a risk that shouldn't be taken. My kids are not going to get the vaccination because I don't think the risk for it outweighs the need. Masks are likewise, they keep kids from being able to interact with each other. It hinders their ability to breathe, and is not a good idea. And we need to not have masks in schools. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Michael. All right, so now we're on to closing remarks for each of you. So I'll go ahead and begin with Michael.
Okay. It's important that we deal with issues like critical race theory. There's the sex education bill, or mandates that are coming down that are inundating our schools with oversexing kids. A lot of parents that I've talked to, my constituents that I've gone around, are very upset about that. They do not agree with it. Also, the 1619 Project. I have a degree in secondary education and social studies. We need to be teaching history, not alternative views to push a social agenda. Kids need to be taught how to the actual history of our country, and to love this country, and to love themselves, and to love each other, not be divisive, and be proud. I've been in the military, I've been in lots of other countries. This is the greatest country in the United States. And we, even though we're not perfect, our children need to understand that and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you again for having me here and for having both of us here to do this debate. My name is Arla Shepard-Bull. I stepped forward to fill this vacancy when it was open in November 2020 amidst the pandemic and all of the ensuing seesaw government regulations. I stepped up, I saw a need, and I would be more than happy to continue in my work here. I think my background as a communicator, as a writer, would help serve the district in terms of its issues that it's had with communication and transparency with the community. I've been in this community for more than 10 years. As a reporter, I know the business owners, I know the community members. I've participated in a lot of our local community events and parades and whatnot. I know the heart of this community, and I really believe that I would be the best suited person to continue in my role here and continue to grow and learn about what it is that our kids need.
Well, thank you so much to both candidates. We're going to get a round of applause for Arla Shepard-Bull and Michael Curtin running for school board. And I'm going to pass it back over to Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We have 3 candidates that have filed, declared for the 2022 election, and we want to recognize them today and give them a moment to speak. We have Travis Couture, who is running for our state legislature, be our representative here in the 35th District. Travis, come tell us a little bit about yourself and why the heck are you doing this?
Thank you. Hey, I'm Travis Couture. I know a lot of people here, so it's good to see friends again. And my good neighbor here, Commissioner Netherland, down the street from me. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I served on submarines USS Alabama and Nebraska. And now I'm running for the State House in the 35th District as Drew McEwen's moving up to run for the Senate. And I currently work at Naval Base Kitsap in Silverdale, helping the Marine Corps and the Navy with their strategic deterrence mission. So that's something I'm pretty proud of. And as a father with 4 kids, my oldest is 15, and I'm gonna have to start teaching him how to drive soon, and I'm gonna have to up my life insurance. It's really, what concerns me more than that is what's going on with our schools today. The schools need partnership in the community. There's a lot of unfunded mandates that come down from the state, and that harms school budgets and forces our rural community to come up with levies and bonds to fill the difference. Our kids need the tools to be able to graduate and become good adults, productive adults. But I'm also concerned about other mandates that are coming down from career politicians in Olympia who've never been to our community, pushing things like we've talked about already today, critical race theory, extreme sex education. And those are things I want to go to Olympia and fight against. And not only do we need to help the schools and our kids' education, because it's important for our future, but they have to be safe when they go to school. They can't walk through tents, heroin needles. Our community has to be safe, and we have to clean up this problem that we have, and we need to get people the help that they need, whether they want it or not. And to do that, our police need to be, our law enforcement here in this community need to be well funded, well respected, and we need to give them all the facilities and tools and training that they need to be successful to keep us all safe. And finally, before Leslie pulls me off the stage, one thing that's been near and dear to my heart, I've been doing this for about 10 years now, is constitutional rights. Especially during COVID in the last year, we've seen a lot of encroachments on our constitutional rights. Things like guns, things like property rights, our freedom to assemble with our families, our friends, and our churches. And pushes from Olympia to cancel our freedom of speech. Those are things I'm going to stand up for against every single day. The lowest bar any legislator can set is to follow the U.S. and the state constitution. And with that, I really think this is my home. This is a beautiful community, and people live here to get away from the radical policies and the high taxes of cities like Seattle and the radical policies of Beltway politicians like Jay Inslee. Send me to Olympia, and I will fight for you every single day, and together we can make government the servant, not the master. Thank you.
Travis has been working with all of us for at least a decade. He's been on the ground and been serving behind the scenes for all of you and bringing conservative thoughts here to Mason County. So Travis is wonderful. Please step forward and help him out with his campaign for the next couple of years. Okay, then we have the congressional candidates, and I'd like to call forward Tim Tooker, who is going to be reading a statement from the 10th Congressional District candidate, Keith Swank. So Tim, are you here? Where is he? Oh, come on, Tim. Keith Swank, I believe, is on a honeymoon. I think that's what he had told us. So that's an excuse. So Tim, thank you so much for coming and telling us a little bit about Keith and what we have to expect.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Once again, my name's Tim Tooker. I'm a 20-year Army veteran. I retired in 2017. I'm very active in the Republican Party. I'm a PCO in the 25th, 285th, and the former vice chair for the 25th Legislative District. So I've been in the party. I've seen a lot of different people, and I can tell you from my heart that Keith Swank is a patriot, and he is a real Republican who fights for the people. Couple things to know about Keith Swank. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army Airborne, and he's also a 30-year he spent 30 years in the Seattle Police Force. He's currently the commander of the SWAT team up in Seattle. So he spent his entire adult life representing the people. And he's looking to continue that by getting sent to Congress and representing you every day. But he's going to be a little different than the normal Congress people that you're used to. He's going to actually come back here and do town halls all the time, so that way you guys can go up and voice your opinions, and he'll work for you. A couple of things about Keith Swank. He's very big on border security. Being a police officer, he sees the dangers that come from illegal immigrants coming up here, all the drugs, the human trafficking, the sex trafficking that's happening. He's very big on the border security and getting that locked up. Second thing is energy independence. We have to get energy independence. You guys can all see the cost and the inflation that's coming into our country, right? We have to get manufacturing back to the state. We have to start doing our own. Good jobs also come with that. We want good jobs for our people. That's what you have to do, is you have to bring the manufacturing and the energy independence back to here. And then the last thing that I'll leave you guys with is probably the number one thing that should be on every Republican's lips is an audit. We must audit the system, and we must check on it. Keith Swank is actually a defendant in a 2018 court case where they are fighting so that way the cost, what the state tries to charge us to audit any election, is outrageous. He's fighting against it to lower the cost, so that way we the people have a right to see what's happening in our elections. Once again, Keith Swank, if you just remember KRS, Keep the Republic Safe. You can follow him on his Facebook for Keith Swank for America, and also KeithSwankForAmerica.com. God bless everybody. May he give you your armor, or his armor, to keep fighting the battle.
Thank you so much, Tim. That's wonderful. And then our wonderful Elizabeth, who just helped us out so much today, ran a wonderful program. And please tell us about yourself, your candidacy.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thanks to everybody. I'm switching hats now. I'm a candidate myself. So once again, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Chrysomeyer. I'm running in 2022 against Derek Kilmer for the U.S. House of Representatives in the 6th Congressional District. And I just want to preface up front by saying that Keith Swank, I'm a fan of Keith Swank, a supporter of Keith Swank, a friend of his. By all means, vote for Keith Swank for Congress if you live in the city of Shelton or the small part of Mason that the 10th covers. I'm the rest of Mason County outside of Shelton, and then the other 5 counties, Kitsap, Pierce, North Pierce, Clallam, Grays Harbor, Jefferson. What I miss? Kitsap? What I miss? Anyway, 6. 6 of those counties. The Olympic Peninsula and Kitsap. Anyway, so I am running again in 2022. So how many of you remember or even voted for me in 2020? Okay. Thank you, and I appreciate the support. I couldn't have done what we did last time without your help, and I'm here to ask for your help again. Just a quick recap on what we did last time. Did not prevail, unfortunately, but we intend to win this time, and here's how we're going to do it. So first of all, last time we were able to win 2 of the 6 counties. I won Grays Harbor and I won Mason. Thank you. We got 52% here and 51% in Grays Harbor. Got 47.3 in Clallam County. So, you know, about half of the counties we did really well, and the overall average was 40.5%, which we need to take over 50. But some good news was that we got more Republican votes in the 6th congressional district than have ever been had before, by 43,000 votes. I got almost 170,000 votes. So that's a plus. We also got Derek Kilmer to spend money for the first time on this race. So the Democrats spent about $1 million on this race in 2020, whereas in 2018 they only spent $16,000. So we have him running scared a little bit, which is a good news. And coming into 2022 with some name recognition, having just been on the ballot, doing some things differently, like starting much earlier. I filed April 2nd, so we've got a half a year extra to work on this. I've got a national team behind me now to support me and work with me in this process. So we plan to, this is a little bit of the inside baseball, but here's where we are with that so far. I set a first quarter fundraising goal. Some of you might have gotten my emails of $100,000 raised in the first quarter, and we met and exceeded it. Got to about 115,000. So thank you to those of you who supported me, and those who haven't, my envelopes are right over there. And what that means, the reason that's so important is that the National Republican Congressional Committee, anybody heard of that, the NRCC? That is the only part of the party that's tasked with supporting congressional House races. There is no other part of the party structure that specifically focuses on House races, and because there's 435 of them, being good Republicans, they're only going to focus on the ones where there's some bang for the buck and they don't want to waste money. And so they will only support a few of those 435 races. So number one, they're going to support incumbent Republicans who are at risk from Democrats taking over. They will support those races automatically. Number two, they will support very close races. If it's a razor-thin margin, like in the 8th District in Washington, that's a close race. It was red 5 minutes ago. They're trying to flip it blue. They will support those races. For everybody else, amongst the sea of House candidates, they only support what they consider to be viable candidates. Anybody want to take a guess how they define viable? Money. Yes, exactly. They want to see that you have the capability to communicate your ideas effectively enough, and that translates to raising money. Now, whether you agree with that as a metric or not, doesn't matter, because that's the metric they use, and that's the metric I was operating on. So in order to fulfill that and meet what they call the young gun status with the NRCC that opens the door to that level of national support from both NRCC and national PACs, I had to meet that target or exceed it, and we did. So that's the good news. And I'm headed to Washington, D.C. in 2 weeks to meet with NRCC and with National PAC folks to try to draw some attention, focus, and resources our way in a district that has been long ignored. Would you agree? From the National Party. So we're working on that. So again, who do you think that, who thinks here that the Biden, Pelosi, and in this case Kilmer, part of that administration, is a little out over their skis, would you say? Are they overreaching just a tad? So that's one of the things we have going for us going into 2022. I say every day that Biden is campaigning for me, because everything he does makes us look better. So we've got that wind at our back. We expect a very massive turnout in 2022 from the Republicans, who are still pretty darn mad. Anybody here still a little upset about what happened in 2020? So we're going to be turning out in force. The Democrats, who can get that excited about Biden stumbling up the staircase? I mean, they typically, historically, the party that's in the White House will have a lower, they will lose seats. That happened to President Trump in 2018. It's going to happen to Biden in 2022. So we only need to flip 5 House seats red to take back the House.
And my website is cleanupthehouse.com. It still is. It was then. It is now. Cleanupthehouse.com, because there certainly still are some dirty tricks going on there. So, yes. So what I want you to do is just go to my website. I want to just reiterate, my platform remains the same. I'm still for strong families, strong communities, and a strong country. And I really thought, as I was running again, do I need to really update this, change it around, change it up? Well, we might change a few of the graphics, but really the bottom line, the premises are still the same. And if anything, these are just more true than they ever were. So for example, under Strong Families, I had written down in 2019, education, not indoctrination. Does that ring true for anybody today with the CRT and the 1619 project? So I'm all over it. That is a huge issue for me, and with the education background that I bring, I want to attack that head on. Growing jobs in a growing economy, well, getting us back to work for one thing, that is super important, that we reopen our businesses, that we stop the insanity of incentivizing people to stay home and not come back to work. So there's a lot that can be done there. Under Strong Communities, I had support for military and law enforcement. This was in 2019. The Defund the Police movement hadn't begun, but it's here now, and I'm here to fight it. And then under Strong Country, proof of citizenship to vote, election integrity, those were things I was clamoring about in 2019, but look what's happened in 2020. So I'm not changing my flyer. I'm a good Republican. I'm going to save money and use them again, use them up and print some more. But anyway, you can find me at my website, cleanupthehouse.com. There's a brand new, pretty cool 2-minute launch video. Take a look at it, share it with your friends, encourage people to go get involved, sign up at my website to volunteer. There's a sign-up sheet over here. Donate, 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 because congressional races are super expensive, and I cannot do this without you, but I just appreciate so much that you're here today. Thank you for the honor of participating, and I thank you to all the local candidates for stepping up and getting involved in the community. We really need you. We're just so happy that you're all stepping up and getting involved. So, cleanupthehouse.com. I'm Elizabeth Kreiselmeyer, and please help me to retire Derek Kilmer and fire Nancy Pelosi in 2022. Thank you.
Oh, you're wonderful, Elizabeth. Thank you so much in helping our event be successful. Oh, okay, the raffle. Goodbye, everybody. I'm turning over the microphone here. There you go.
People have been putting in raffle tickets, so we're going to find out who gets it. One is a back porch or picnic basket, and the other one is an elephant. A big pillow elephant, which has nothing to do with the fact that this is a Mason County Republican Women's Club. It's just an elephant. Okay, so Elizabeth's going to choose our first winner.
Gordy, number 9934619. Gordy? Is Gordy here?
Yeah, Gordy's here.
Great.
Gordy, you get to choose.
He's gone.
Oh, okay.
We want another one?
He may get the elephant then. Go ahead and choose the second one.
How about Maxine?
Is Maxine here? Yay! You get to choose between the picnic basket or that lovely, not Republican elephant. Okay, thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone, and especially Elizabeth. Let's give her a really big hand. Nice job. And thank you for everyone that showed up today. It was a good event.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
The preceding was a paid broadcast presented by the Mason County Republican Women's Club and Central Committee. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of Mason Web TV powered by HCC, MasonWebTV.com, Hood Canal Communications, its advertisers, or sponsors. Appearances on this broadcast do not constitute an endorsement.
Thanks for watching Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.